We can go ahead and get started. Hi, welcome to OCWG meeting number 23, where we've kind of transitioned over last meeting and this meeting to doing more work during the meetings, or from working on the spec really to working on tools and supporting tech, although there's still some spec discussion happening. So we'll jump straight into it today. Michael, I saw that you posted the generator, the LLM generator. Do you want to start with a demo of that? And then Aaron, I noticed you opened a PR for the collapsing parent and set like we talked about last time. So, or group and set, sorry. So maybe we can start with your demo, Michael, and then talk about that PR.
Yeah.
And then maybe Max, if you have anything to add in, we can jump into that.
All right, then I will share my screen.
Oh yeah, let me give you permission. Here we go. Here we go. You should be able to do it now.
See, second screen.
Yep.
All right. Yes, I've made this small generator. What it does, I will, let's see. I also put it on my GitHub. Let's use everything. I've got some example prompts. What you basically can do, you can put in a prompt like you're used to doing. I'm using other chat tools, and then press generate. You need to have, of course, API, provide an API key, and then it generates an OK file.
Nice.
You can also view how it looks. It even has support for grouping.
That's great.
And you can see if that what the LLM generated is. You can evaluate it, so and it can improve itself if needed. This is also done with the LLM, of course.
Nice.
So is this using your validator already?
Yeah, I put the schema inside of it as well. It's not the exact same code, but yeah, actually it is, because it uses the same library for validating. Yeah. And there's a very big prompt. Let's see, where do I put it? There's a very big prompt somewhere. Of course, I've used a lot of vibe coding, so I don't know every detail of it.
Not super familiar with this repository.
No, that's the yeah, that's of course one of the things when you do that. Yeah, but there it is. It's quite a big prompt.
Yeah.
I use also structured output as well, at least with OpenAI. But Gemini, that's just the text output that's being used.
So the generated output on OpenAI, it ensures that it matches the schema.
Yeah.
When you get it back, that's cool.
There's really difference between the different LLMs.
I bet.
Sometimes OpenAI is better, sometimes Gemini is better.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite
reasonable.
Quite nice. Yeah.
Make it
do
beautiful.
some auto layout with D3 Force library. I want to play more with that, but
very cool. Nice work.
Yeah, you can even download it. And
what do you want to do with this stuff next, Michael? I mean, obviously we could move the repositories, we could extract some of the validation stuff into OCF tools. Like there's different ways we could.
Yeah, I think I want to move it to our OCWG repository. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Wait.
Trying to import it in your tool.
Yeah, but
Hey, there
even
you go.
runs.
It even runs. How
Just
does your tool interpret how to run it though? Like I understand the connections exist, but it just treats an arbitrary node as the starting node, or
yeah, every node that has no input, that's a start node. So
of course.
when I put it slower, then
Okay.
you see what happens.
Yeah. So D and F.
Although these two are in the group, the group is not is just a group.
Mm-hmm.
It
Is the
doesn't,
text as orange there? Is that encoded in the? Can you go back to the JSON that was generated?
no, that's in my tool. It uses
I was
the
gonna say,
border
okay.
color as a text. I want to change
Got
that because this is you cannot read this, of course, and
Mhm.
this is not good.
Yeah.
You can I don't have a stroke color and a fill color.
Mm-hmm.
So
Got it.
that's,
If stroke color and fill color are the same, then it's a little hard to read.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, yeah, let me know if you do the transfer over to the OCWG organization in GitHub. I can like accept the transfer of the repository and we can throw it up there.
that's yeah, I can just transfer it. That's good because I was also thinking of using the repo that you made last week, 2 weeks ago. I'm making a mono repo, but maybe this is for now better, just transferring it.
Yeah, it feels like these
Because
like vibe coded little tools, that kind of stuff, are maybe not yet part of the mono repo. The mono repo probably
Yeah.
has a little bit more like hardened, maybe
Yeah.
stuff in it.
Yeah, I agree.
And eventually, what I'd love to do is extract out the validation code that you're using into the OCWG tools, and then have that be something that you can import into your and share across your little like vibe coded tools.
Yeah, I think it's
We could also get these hosted under canvasprotocol.org as well, so that they have like a proper domain.
Yeah, better. Yeah, but yeah, it's I'm really happy with that vibe coding. It not all the results are good, of course, but it saves a lot of time at least.
Yeah.
And that's very nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to wait on some CI for my work projects, and then I just give the LLM give the cursor some assignments to do while I'm waiting.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah,
I'll
I
stop
had less
sharing.
luck with LLMs. There's a scripting language called JSONata. That's a functional
Yeah.
programming language to transform JSON to JSON. And I tried to convince Gemini to give me a JSONata script to convert Obsidian canvas files to OCWG, but it didn't turn out well, so I couldn't get it through.
I guess not every attempt is successful, huh?
And the same for JQ. So the scripts have comparable length. And it seems that JSONata would be a nice choice because it can also run in the browser. Yeah. So JSONata is really interesting and nice, but yeah.
Yeah, and
Maybe it
JQ is
requires
the command line version, right? Do they have an npm import as well?
for JQ.
Mhm.
Yeah, for Node maybe, but it's not on the browser. It would be
Got
cool
it.
to have a transformer in the browser. So JSONata can do that, but I can't do JSONata well enough yet.
Yeah, or at least yeah, at least Gemini's not doing it yet.
Yeah, but Gemini 2.5 is really impressive.
I agree. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of mileage out of 2.5 lately. I've basically dropped using Sonnet 3.5 Sonnet entirely, and I'm using Gemini 2.5 all the time now. Well, Aaron, you want to talk about your PR?
Yeah. So the pull request that I've made is to merge set and group into just group, and you can interpret that as deleting group and renaming set to group, or however many ways to interpret that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what we discussed in the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so essentially, as a little recap of the meeting, um, we discussed that like it's kind of weird to have both set and group, and it seems like the concept of set was closer to what other apps were calling group, and to me at least group seemed like it was behaving more like a parent-child relationship. So my proposal is that um, some uses of the current group can go to the new group, and some uses of the group go to just parent-child nodes, and
Mm-hmm.
have just the simple. You either have nodes in a hierarchy with the parent-child, or you have things grouped in a semantic way with groups, which used to be called set, and those are the only two structures, and it's much simpler this way.
So what are the like deletion semantics? If I delete a new group, what happens?
If you delete a new group, then nothing special happens. The nodes will stay there. So it's like what happens with a set currently.
Okay, so yeah, so
You
I
could
also
have a
refer
separate
to,
operation though that is get all the nodes in that group and delete them. Like that could be a separate operation that's defined somewhere.
yeah, but we don't define operations, we just define structures. So we need to define the semantics for our group, and then we need to tell application developers if you have an application that puts
Mm-hmm.
stuff together, and if you delete the thing, the items inside are gone, then that is a parent-child relation, I guess now. So and if I just put things together and delete the thing, the items inside are not gone. So what I have in PowerPoint, if I take several shapes and group them together, that's how they call it,
Mm-hmm.
then that would be a parent-child in the new world, right?
Yeah. So the way that this works, yes, is as you described, where like if you were to delete like a parent node, usually in most apps that also deletes the children, and if you didn't want to delete the children, you'd have to move the children out of that first.
So I think we have a couple things going on here too. Like, there's a parent-child relation between, uh, and then there's just there's a parent-child relation between multiple nodes, right? Like a node can have multiple children, but that's a relationship between nodes. That's not the same thing as what we're talking about with a group. A group is a separate thing, an entity unto itself. And there is not
But the
necessarily a parent in a group. Like all of
but,
the
but the
things,
yeah, but the
all,
parent is also acting as the container, whether you call the container the group with the
right.
items or the parent with the children, it's both the container thing.
Right. Conceptually, I get what you're saying, Max. Yeah, I agree. I'm saying that the parent-child relation uh, doesn't actually support this because you would a parent it's assumed that the parent is a node, not a relation.
But also here's the thing, the current groups in the old groups, there
Mhm.
is the fact that a group can be a member of a group.
Yep.
Which is an interesting case because like the spec is actually currently not quite clear on if you delete a group that has a group inside of it
Mhm.
and all the nodes get deleted, does that delete that other group as well that's inside of the group, or does it just go into that group and delete its nodes and now that group is like left as like an orphan with no children?
Well, here it says if a group is deleted, all members are deleted as well. And
Right.
it says groups can contain groups as members. Thus,
Oh, it
all
does say
semantics
member.
apply recursively. Yeah, so
I
seems pretty
I
clear to me that everything is deleted.
okay, I misremembered that then. I thought it said nodes, but I'm wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we do want to bring these semantics up. of like into the new group. Do you have a problem with that, Aaron? Of like restoring these same semantics such that a group containing groups as members, when a group is deleted, all members are deleted as well. When a group is ungrouped,
I
Yeah.
think this is explicitly something that Aaron wanted to change. That so we have currently 3 constructs, and the question is whether we really need 3. And we
Right,
found out that the difference between the parent-child, between set and groups is sets. If you delete something, if you delete a set, nothing changes. The items still remain there. But if you delete a group, the items inside get deleted. So
gotcha. Okay,
It-
so what I was
we want-
suggesting, yeah,
we want both different deletion semantics. That's nice. Okay. And then
So
we have
we-
also parent-child, and the question is, if we give parent-child one of these 2 deletion semantics, then maybe one of the former 2 objects can go. And as Aaron said, parent-child should recursively delete the children because of these children are now meaningless.
Yep.
So that looks suspiciously close to what we called group formerly. So maybe that former group can
I
go.
understand.
So then we should keep sets as simple. Yeah, like adding tags to things, and things can be in multiple sets at the same time.
Yeah, and in fact, Unity even calls them sets. If we want to, we could also like throw in a Boolean here, or like deletions propagate or something. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what to call that Boolean.
Cascading
Um,
delete. That was actually going to be my
Oh.
suggestion, is that we add
Yeah.
that we default that cascading delete is an optional property of group that is by default like true, or whatever you guys want the default behavior to be. I don't have a strong opinion on what it is. I just want to be able to offer both semantics with the same object with group. And I think a cascading delete flag gives you the ability to do either. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes sense. The
That
other
allows
thing
you to be
I'll
allows
briefly
you to be explicit in the file about what you expect. And that way, regardless of which implementing application implements the group, they can basically say, in our application, this is expected that you would cascade delete, or it's expected that you would not. This is like sort of an abstract concept of a group that is not expected to delete all of its nodes when it's deleted. Again, I feel like parent-child is a different thing in my mind than group. Group is an arbitrary set of nodes that may have parent-child relationships to each other. They may not have parent-child relationships. It can be a flat hierarchy, right? Just a flat list of nodes that all belong to this group. And parent-child is basically crowning one of those things as the parent. I get what you're saying, Max, conceptually, that the group itself is the parent, kind of. But yeah, being able to like basically lasso a bunch of things and saying this is a like you said, tags Max would be an application that you could implement with groups, where you may not want to cascade delete when you delete the tag.
I like the idea of having the explicit Boolean a lot because it just really clarifies, is it a cascading delete or not? Maybe the term set is even clearer, that usually nothing happens if you delete a set of things. The items usually remain. I mean, in mathematics, if you have things, call them a set, and you delete the set, maybe the things inside are more present than if they were in a group. I think group is a term that has so many different semantics and so many different apps that maybe keep the default thing named set and have a Boolean flag cascading delete. Default is false. So that will have the least surprises to users. So a
I
set is
slightly
just
favored- yeah.
lasso a bunch of things together.
Yeah, I slightly favor set, but I don't have a strong opinion here. And Aaron, you were just saying that this matches the set semantics in Unity, but I think Godot, you said, calls this group. And so we're going to already encounter this kind of difference, group versus set. And so I think it's just picking one and going with it. But I do like
Yeah.
that we don't have both. I think this is an improvement, in my opinion.
Yeah, Michael, do you have a favorite for set or group?
Yeah, I think group. I think it's good that we
Uh-huh.
combine them, set and group, because also for me it's I wondered why we need two of them, but and group. If I look at TL-draw and Node-RED, I don't know if you know Node-RED, but it's also a Node-on-Wire low-code environment. But both have groups, and if you delete the group in both of them, at least in Node-RED, then I know that the children are also deleted. In TL-draw, let's see what it does.
Yeah, I think in most of the sort of what you might call like casual whiteboarding apps, it's called group.
Yeah.
And probably in the more maybe like 3D editors and things like that, it's probably in game engines, it's probably more likely to use a slightly more formal term like set.
So then group has a cascading delete default true, because that seems to be more often used.
That seems reasonable to me.
And
So
which
then
tools have the original set behavior that when you delete the set that the numbers stay on the canvas.
Yeah, if you have tagging semantics, you add a bunch of things and just label them something that is a set with a label. And then if you
Yeah.
delete that label, the items are still there, of course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in our lingo, that would be a group with cascading delete set to false.
Well, anyway, I have you see there's a refresh button at the top. I pushed something to the
Great.
PR. So
Cool.
now it will have cascade delete.
Fantastic. Great. No, I
The
think this looks good.
the other thing mentioned
Mhm.
was like whether you can have groups as members of groups. Um, I don't
Mhm.
Of
want
course.
I don't want to say that we have to be limited by what any single application does, but I will mention that at least in Godot engine, that's not possible.
It's very common. We actually did a survey of like whiteboarding apps. In most whiteboarding apps, you can put groups in groups.
Okay,
So like
so we should have
Keynote,
that then.
yeah, Keynote, TL-Draw, Miro, like Excalidraw, all of these support grouping groups. Um, so yeah, we need to support that for sure, or we need to allow it in the spec.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this kind of group then is also very close to parent-child in a way. So we could also think about having the set as a very lightweight thing that is more like tagging, and having parent-child and group being merged into one tree-like construct.
What's the difference? I'm not sure if I'm following your suggestion actually.
What Max is describing is how I had this PR at the start of the meeting.
Yeah. So what are the
Uh,
deletion semantics of parent-child? That's the same as having a group with cascading delete true.
It's not the same as having a group with cascading delete true. Like you have to define a single node as the parent.
But
It's not
in
the
a
same.
group, you also need a parent. I mean, what
No, you
the
don't. You can have
you say
three
okay.
nodes that are completely unrelated to each other that are all part of a relation called a group.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
key thing that
Yeah,
maybe
right. Now I got it.
is
Yeah,
hard to explain is with
true.
w- if you have like a node can belong to multiple groups
Exactly.
but only
Yes.
have one parent. Yeah.
Yep. Which is another important distinction. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, the two distinctions are groups don't imply anything about the hierarchy of the internal nodes. They may have no relationship to each other. They may have,
hmm
they may have parent-child relationship. They may be tree-like. They may be flat. There's no implication of hierarchy at all. Parent-child is explicitly hierarchical. And then, as you mentioned, the assumption is that every child will have a single parent. And there's no such assumption with nodes. They can belong to any arbitrary number of groups at any time. So it does feel like a different thing. Whether we call it group or set, and whether it cascade deletes or not, I can see an argument for enabling both cascading deletes and non-cascading deletes in different use cases, but it feels like a group slash set, whatever we're going to call it, is a very different concept from parent-child because of the explicit hierarchy in parent-child and the complete irrelevance of that to the group or set.
Yeah. Now I'm on your side.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I won you over. Okay, great. But I do like having these two concepts instead of three as we did 2 weeks ago. So this is definitely an improvement.
I will say though, with a group as able to contain other groups, it is kind of like a hierarchy, but it's not like a strict hierarchy. You could maybe even do like wacky things, like have a loop of groups, like group A contains group B, which contains group A.
Yep.
Which you can also do with parent-child.
I don't think that is possible.
A has parent B, B has parent C, C has parent A.
Well, I think cyclic parent-child relationships are something that's not going to be loadable in a lot of apps.
Certainly not, yeah, but
We should probably list that in the discouragements section of the parent-child bin.
Yeah, that'd be a good
Avoid
idea.
cycles. Please avoid cycles. But yeah, I think we're at a good spot with group and set though. This seems like the right place to be. And I just wanted to point out that like the way this PR worked is what we were hoping would happen, which is we have this 041 draft folder that has basically a copy of 040 or 04 or whatever. And then we're able to open PRs against the draft folder and just see the changes. Like these are like really, this is exactly what will change. And then once we merge that in, that goes into the draft. And then eventually we can kind of roll out draft over to 041 full. So I like that flow.
Okay, native
Anything else
speakers,
to-
is it cascade delete or is it cascading delete?
In English, it would be cascading delete because it modifies the delete. Like it's an adverb, I guess.
I guess it depends on like how you phrase it though, because
Oh, that's
we
true.
could say that the delete is cascading, or we could say that like uh if you do a delete, then the app should cascade that to.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it depends how we phrase it.
It could be worded as an imperative of cascade delete, in which case it should be cascade deletes or deletions. It should be plural, right? At that point, if we're gonna drop the ing, then it needs to be cascade deletes or cascade deletions.
But there can only be one deletion. Afterwards, it's gone and cannot be deleted again.
No, I mean it basically means. Oh yeah, you're right. It's a singular delete. It's the group that's being deleted, not the nodes. Oh yeah, you're right. It is singular. My bad, Max. It's cascade delete if we choose to drop the ing and read it as, yeah, cascade the delete of this. That, I mean, it is 2 characters shorter. We could just go for brevity is always better.
My
In
policy.
the case of A versus B, always choose the shorter one. Briefer
My
one.
policy when I'm writing specs is to try and keep things in very simple tenses because I think it reduces ambiguity and reduces like, especially for people that aren't native English speakers, just like having the words simple right there, easy, you know.
Great point. I like it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Cascade delete.
So
Cool.
if a group can contain other groups, so a group contains nodes and relations, but the parent-child is only between nodes.
I think that's correct.
Okay. So a relation cannot have a parent. So if there's a hierarchical wiki that has no visual nodes, these concepts, like in a concept hierarchy in Wikipedia, they cannot be parent-child.
It looks like that isn't, yeah, that looks like the way we've defined it. We've said node here.
Yeah, but is it an
We
accident
should
or?
probably relax that actually. That doesn't necessarily have to be nodes here.
Should be node or relation, right?
I
But
think you're
not
right. I think it
resources.
should be node or relation. Yeah, it makes it more flexible. In many cases, it will be nodes, but that makes it able to be used for things like you just described, Max, of like, I just want to take these concepts and relate them using parent-child and build a hierarchy around them. All right, let me see. I think I can edit this file and commit it to a branch. Should be nodes or relations.
Actually, that makes groups and parent-child even closer. So
It
a
does.
group is a relation containing items, and parent-child is a node containing items.
There's still that critical difference of the hierarchy, the strict hierarchy.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, okay, strict hierarchy.
That's the biggest difference.
Also, I thought I saw something about
Which is great because this actually says it right here. It models a hierarchical relationship
Yes.
between.
Yeah.
It actually says the idea of the parent node, there should only be one parent per child. I feel like that should be must. I don't think any app will be able to load a parent-child hierarchy that's not like strict like that.
So there may be only one parent per child in. So we don't require to have a parent. Okay, maybe we do if we have a parent-child relation.
Yeah, so if the relation exists, then that's the case. You're allowed to have 0, but then like there's no relation in that case, so we don't need to state it.
Am I missing any other instances? There we go. When looking for JSON properties of a node and finding them undefined, an app should look for the same value in the parent.
Okay, so if we have strict hierarchies and non-strict hierarchies, then for both we should say whether we have cascade delete true or false, so that we can also have a strict hierarchy that's non-cascading delete.
That seems reasonable.
And also, why cannot a relation be the parent of another relation? So we should have parent or node is parent of relation or node again. So to make it, we always wanted to have visual nodes and abstract relations being on the same power. So the real remaining difference should be strict hierarchy versus a non-strict hierarchy, which is a big difference. It makes a lot of sense to have different relations to capture that.
I like it. Oh, to have markdown tables auto format in the browser.
Yeah, this is
Come
why
on.
I refuse to write Markdown in anything but VS Code. I need
Yep.
I need to be able to right-click format everything.
Yeah, I was foolish to just sit here and click edit. A Boolean flag indicated in 12 is false. And then finally, yeah, we say cascade. But now that I'm halfway down this train, I'm going to go ahead and finish it and create a branch for it, and I can open it locally. Cascade delete and flag indicating if the children should be deleted. And the parent. Default is false. And I guess I should pull that. You guys shouldn't have to watch me type. Is there other stuff we want to work on today?
Default it.
Oh, default is true. Yeah, sorry. I'll make this a PR so that we can review it before it gets merged in.
There is also the other PR that I made that adjusts the formatting, and I did change it per Max's comments.
Oh, cool. Max,
Yeah,
you want to
cool.
review that real quick?
I have not reviewed it yet.
Yeah, can you take a look at that? Create a new branch, and this one will be parent, child.
So Aaron, you go with your way of adding the line breaks and my suggestion of having slightly less headlines. Excellent. I
Yeah.
like that, of course.
So now instead of headings, it's the bold just like it was before, but then there's a backslash at the end so that there's no trailing
Yeah.
white space.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a clear improvement.
Cool. Action. Oops, I read it. I added the wrong file. Good thing I made that a PR. I will close that. Let's see. You find- All right, great. Max, are you gonna merge?
I'm just checking again.
Okay, perfect.
It's a lot of little changes.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's
Aaron, I'm
also
taking a look at
formatting.
your changes.
Yeah. So Aaron, your PR is also changing the older versions of the spec, which is kind of nice because it makes them easier to edit and so on. But should we not just never look at them again and keep the old versions just untouched?
Good question. In my opinion, like standardizing the like file formatting is something that is in scope of touching the old specs because
Yeah.
I think if we want to have like some automated tool do this to the repo in the future, then we want to have every file in the repo be compliant.
Yeah.
We could, of course, just exclude those from the tool, but like I would
So,
rather just have everything be formatted correctly.
okay, so the setup gets simpler, yeah.
I think that's fine. And I think, Max,
It's
as you're
fine.
going
I
through and reviewing, yeah.
just conceptually why should we ever touch up old files again?
It's a good question, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I
Okay,
think,
so I merged the PR now.
We definitely don't want to make any like changes that are significant to the
Mhm.
point where like they even slightly change like how like the words and stuff would be interpreted or like but if it's just the formatting you won't even see it maybe if you weren't looking at the source.
Mhm.
Just look at the identical rendered documents like
It's both is fine for me. These are really okay changes, yeah. But okay.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Can you actually, I think I can do it myself. I made a 041 draft PR. So we actually want
oh I
to
need
base.
to make my PR be on top of yours.
I already did it. I already did it. You're good. So luckily it was a pretty simple change. Um, so yeah, what I did was I copied that folder on main and then I created a 041 PR from main that already had that 041 draft. And the nice thing about that is we now have this 041. Hey, Orion.
Hey, hey.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
So yeah,
Seeing
the
a
nice
lot
thing
of
is we now have this. Oh, go ahead.
I was seeing a lot of git commits. I was getting excited. I had to step out of my job and see what was happening.
Well, it's been fun. Yeah, Michael showed a demo of his LLM powered OCIF generator as well as the validator that now spits out SVG and TL draw. And yeah, then we've been looking at 041, kind of cleaning up some of the semantics. So um, it's been fun.
Awesome.
So yeah, what I was going to point out is now we have this 041 draft or PR that we can review all of the changes together against main, which is kind of nice. So if we just keep merging our changes like parent-child, extending parent-child to support relations, we merge that into 041 draft, then we have, then we can kind of group them all together. It'll also make it a lot easier to write like release notes because they'll all of the commits will be right there. Max, can you review this one, number 31 that I just posted? And if it looks good, go ahead and merge it in. And then
What we also need to do is to extend the group to support having a note at the top.
a group. Oh, you want to make a group
To make it
quite wide.
symmetric. Mm, don't know.
Isn't that one of like the key not the key difference, but it's like, I mean, that's pushing it in the direction of parent-child. If you want a note at the top, then use parent-child.
Well, a group is a non-strict hierarchy. Why shouldn't visual nodes not have non-strict hierarchies? I have a label like
Okay.
urgent and Betty will take care of it and related to coffee machine. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have a bunch of to-do items on my screen. Then I group them together. So each of these groups has one of these labels. I could use the group relation for that. And if I delete the urgent label, the tasks shouldn't be deleted. So the group relation would be perfect for that. But it must allow the tag, the visual node of the tag representing the group. We have other relations that can be represented by arrows. Why can a group relation not be represented by a visual node?
Okay, I've got you. It's an
Optionally.
optional. Yeah. No, I'm with you now. Okay.
That
Now
way
I'm-
would work.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
I
I'm
mean,
fully on board
if
with
you're
that.
if you're gonna draw a box around the grouped things, then to me that would you would want that to be a node and use parent child in that case because like
Exactly.
is a visual thing in the thing, and
Yep.
Okay, I don't draw a box. I just have 10 items and 3 of them are now labeled urgent. And the urgent is a label, is a node. But there's no visual relation going on the screen between this urgent label and these 3 to-dos. And 2 of these to-dos are also labeled with another label
Mhm,
called Jess, because Jess will take care of these to-dos.
mhm.
So the
Wasn't-
box would be
Wasn't there a
parent.
concept? Wasn't there a concept in TLDraw called frames or something? I don't know if it was ever fully implemented or rolled out. It might have been like a test thing. Wait, maybe that's it right there.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
frame. Aha. Yeah. So what it sounds like you're describing to me is a frame, which we had hoped to be able to implement a frame with a group. Basically saying like a frame is yeah, you've got some nodes that belong to this group, and you also have a visual. There's an expected visual representation.
wait a second though,
the-
can one of those text nodes inside of there belong to 2 different frames at the same time?
They did some crazy stuff with this, so I believe that it is the case. Let's see. Maybe not. Interesting. I don't even know how to put something in a frame. Oh, there we go.
If it can't be in both at once, then it's to me it's a parent child.
Yeah. Because today we learned parent-child is for strict hierarchies.
So these are all children. These must be children of this top level frame.
Yeah,
Is basically what I'm saying. Okay.
that's how I would like model that data if I was like implementing something or
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, I mean, whether it's parent-child or not, the point still stands that there's a visual representation that's associated with the frame that's expected, which is different from this case where I have these 3 guys that are grouped. These are grouped. They're kind of the same as this, but it's expected that there will be no visual representation of this, right? You would model this as a group. This you would model as either a parent-child, which I'm totally fine with, or a group, but with the exception of there's a rectangle here that is drawn on the screen and also a label that is associated with this sort of this thing, group or parent-child relation. And the intention, I think, when Orion and I were originally talking about group and set and that kind of stuff, is to be able to model frames as well. Meaning that, like, just like you were just saying, Max, what kicked this off for me is like in our current model, we have with arrows, this is the visual node, but there's also a relation that models the relationship between these 2 nodes. Similarly, there's a relation that models the relationship between these nodes and this frame thing, but there's also a visual node, and it's probably helpful to be able to point to the visual node from the relation in the same way that I think we support pointing to the visual node that represents the arrow from the relation.
Yeah.
This explains
so that-
why we had so much confusing discussion over this because it seems like the original use cases for like all jumbled together here.
Yep. Definitely helpful to have like examples to draw on. Yeah, and frames can contain groups. Groups can contain groups. Um, but I guess what we're talking about adding then is we're basically saying, let's go to the spec real quick.
I'm aware that saying this is very Godot-brained, but I want to mention that what you did there with the grouping the nodes, if those if those nodes are only in like that one group, then that could just be like an invisible node, or like an empty node with just like the only thing it does is have children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely thought about that too. I think the challenge is that in the interop case, the challenge with implementing it that way is in the interop case, some canvases are just going to try and render all of the nodes to the. They're like, I don't know what this node is, but I'm going to try and render it to the canvas. And that we actually don't want that. That's why we want to. That's why we want relations at all, right? Is to have these things that are sort of semantically not visual. You don't have to worry about visualizing them.
That's actually a very interesting point I had not considered before. Like with what I'm used to with like GLTF, for example,
Mhm.
it's expected that like a node is just like a mathematical object, and it's only going to be a visual thing if like there's something on it that is visual, like ha it
Mhm.
having a mesh. The idea that some canvases would implicitly make all nodes visual is a very interesting thing.
Yep. And I think it's in most canvases, it's the default. In fact, there is no really concept of a relation in a canvas. Um, and you actually have to, there's only kind of more robust canvases that sort of encode the relation between these nodes. And some canvases treat it merely as like a drawing, like a rendering engine almost of like, here's where you draw everything on the screen. And why would you put anything on the screen that you can't draw? The whole point is it's a rendering engine. Um, and it's not a three-dimensional rendering engine in the same way that Godot or Unity, which has like scene graphs and all of these conceptual things for to make it easy to because then you're dealing with things like animations and behavior and things like that. That you want these more conceptual tools for like a lot of the more basic canvases are they're just a rendering engine. They're like a little step above HTML's canvas. Um,
I see. So this kind of like level of abstraction then just doesn't make any sense for those minimal apps.
Exactly. And that was why early on when we were talking about OCWG and like why are we making this is to try and span the middle of sort of the 80% spectrum between purely conceptual things like a graph and purely visual things like a rendering, like a 2D rendering engine, and try to kind of make the middle. Um,
When I heard
so
you
I guess,
talking, I wondered, what do we do with visual nodes that have no resource? That seems suspiciously close to an invisible node.
right. Yep. And I think it'll be up to the canvas to figure out what to do, right? So nodes have to have a position and a size. And whether they have any resource that visualizes them or not, like you said, is optional. Um,
So
and
there's
so
still a frame, a
there's still a
rectangle,
frame.
maybe.
Exactly. I think what some canvases will choose to do is just draw a rectangle. And they'll make up a border size, they'll make up a, color. It'll just be black, white, whatever the kind of the offset is there. But then they've visualized it. They've drawn the node. Um, and we've given some guidance in the
Yeah.
spec in terms of if you don't have a resource, there's this idea of fallbacks as well, where if you don't know how to draw the thing, here's how we would recommend you draw it. But goodness. So what I was gonna go look at real quick was groups that we were just discussing. Um, so given what we looked at with frames, how would you guys say that we should implement that? Is group now going to have an optional, I think it's this, right? No. Yeah, this one. The
Ag-
ID is a visual node.
Again,
Yeah.
Godot brains, but everything is nodes. This is how I think.
Yeah. Yep, and we've split your brain, Aaron.
Yeah, you split my brain here because this is everything is nodes idea is kind of tricky with the thought of like some apps will like render these things. So do we need to like explicitly state that if it's a node with no resource that it's invisible?
We may already state that. Max, you wrote most of this section, or
But I
had an
think,
element.
Jess, you said the correct answer. If it has no resource, we don't mind. It still has the rectangle. Or if it uses the oval extension, it's still an oval. So every visual node is a shape that contains stuff. And if it contains no stuff, it's still a shape.
Oh, shape.
It
Yeah.
remains a visual thing. So that distinction holds. It's not invisible.
Agreed. Agreed. And so then another way of saying that is the simplest possible OCWG canvas that shows something, anything on the canvas would be a single node with a position and a size. No resources, no relations, no nothing. Like that is the smallest non-empty OCIF file. I can't think of anything smaller because you can literally have an empty relations and empty resources arrays in that case, and you don't need any extensions. You just use, and that shows a single rectangle at a single point. It's interesting. But to our
Yeah, OCIF is really centered around OCIF is really the rectangle exchange format at its core.
And you can always add a Z here. So the small, it's almost as small to have a text node. I mean, to have a node that has a Z, XYZ, and then the smallest OCIF file has a cube. It's a three-dimensional.
Yeah.
This should actually size. Oh, interesting. What have we said about size in 3 dimensions? Yeah, we have said. Okay, Z-axis. Okay.
My Godot implementation in like the intermediate step when I'm in the middle of importing, I read
Yeah.
all the OCIF position and size stuff as a three-dimensional transform, just because like it's got a Z-axis.
Yep.
And it's just like, well, all these degrees of freedom in 3D for like rotating in these other directions, we're just not going to use them.
Not at all. Not at all. We're all about cubes here. Rectangles and cubes. Okay, so then the change that we were just discussing making though to get parallelism between groups and edges is to add a node, an ID of a visual node for groups.
Yes.
And that allows you to represent frames. So does parent-child need the same?
No, because in parent-child you have a node or resource already.
Oh, yeah.
You have a parent
Yeah.
already, and then the relation is just relating them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, there's already a facility for that. It's just have your top level node be a rectangle or a group or whatever. I'm thinking about this case with TL Draw where it's clearly both a label and a rectangle. It's also a weirdly zoom in independent text label.
Oh, yeah.
What size is that text? Depends.
It's a constant size on your screen.
Yes, relative to your screen size. Which watch, I can make it bigger. Or no. Oh, they take over the Command plus button. That's interesting. Ah, there we go. Now I made it bigger. Yeah, there it goes. It's bigger now. All right, let's see. Okay, I'll add that. We're coming up on the end of our time here. I'll add I'll add another PR that adds the ability to have for groups to have nodes that they point at. Michael, if you do the repo transfers, I can receive them into the org at any point. And
Yeah. Yeah, I
see if I
will do
can
some
mess up.
editing before I do that.
Cool.
But yeah.
Great. Any parting thoughts, Joel?
We should have the Obsidian canvas transform to OCIF. can't be so hard, although I didn't succeed with Gemini.
Michael's already done it, right?
Well, no, I used the OCWG file that Max generated, I think. Previously, you already,
I generated one file using Gemini,
yeah,
but we don't have code to automatically have that transform. I mean, if we would have
Right.
code to automatically transform Obsidian Canvas to OCWG, then that would be the first tool we could sort of ship. And if we then have a second tool to go from OCWG to, let's say, your tool, then we have the first real life value out of.
I will work on that. I think that's not not that complicated, because probably with that mega prompt that I already have, together with the information from Obsidian Canvas, that
But we
probably,
want to have deterministic code, not an LLM
Yeah.
being involved in the actual transform. And this JSON looks interesting, but maybe
true.
pure JavaScript is even easier. I don't know. It depends.
I will dive into the format. I think it's not that complicated.
It's really not big. Yeah, there's not a whole lot.
No,
you can do
it's not.
That should be very doable.
Yeah.
Cool. Neat.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. See you. Actually, 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop recording.